It wasn't until one time he called me out on it. Like, bro, you talk like you're better than me.
I'm pretty sure you responded, because I think I am.
I literally had to actually
In the
confront
conversation.
that. Wait, I actually do think that I'm better than you.
For the first few years of our marriage, I literally just handled all of the bills, all the money. It was like, I'm making all the decisions. And like, things were fine.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, we can't buy this right now, it was
I would
like,
get upset.
yeah, and she would take it personally because she doesn't know what's going on necessarily financially. So
Right.
it seemed like, oh, I'm just making a decision to not get the thing maybe that you want.
Yeah, like
You
you're
know?
withholding.
Yeah. When that wasn't
the case
at all.
And we believe over communication
Yeah.
is key. Going the extra mile when it comes to communication in marriage is so important, because I really believe that when you don't fill in the gaps, the enemy will.
A lot of people look at decisions as like zeros and ones, yes or no. Are we unified? Is it a yes or no answer? It's not that simple. I've learned over time. You can be unified, but there's a scale of how unified you are.
Come on. If you don't have proper conflict resolution skills, a level 1 issue,
Life is gonna be hell.
bruh, a level 1 issue will become a level 10 issue for no reason at all, just because you guys just don't know how to talk to each other. Well, it's been 7 years.
That's not the lyrics. but sure, change it up. Switch it
Can't
up.
hold back my tears,
All right, come on, Jamie.
'cause it's just, was it? I'm
'Cause I'm
just
just
so happy.
I'm marrying an angel today. Oh,
And as I take your hand,
I vow to be your man. Oh, I thought you were gonna change words. Woman,
woman,
I vow to love, to hold, to cherish, and never disrespect the love that we share. Take me to the bridge.
Dun, 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 dun.
I'll be honest, I cannot lie. All right, bro, let's.
Yeah, sorry. That song
go ahead.
hit.
It is. It's a great song though.
Also,
Great
that
song.
just so you guys know, that song was the song Elijah sang to me
I did sing that at our wedding.
at our wedding at the altar.
Had to put them vocals on her. You know what I'm saying? All right, so I'm sure y'all saw some of them clips, but welcome to Mornings with My Muse.
Yes.
It's your girl AB and your boy Elijah. And today we are talking about some of the most important lessons that we've learned in 7 years of marriage. So we just celebrated our 7-year wedding anniversary.
That's crazy.
Yeah. 7 years married to this beautiful woman over here.
Aw.
Beautiful in mind, body, and spirit. Oh, yes.
I cannot believe it's been 7 years.
Yeah, it definitely feels like 2 year and a
2
half.
is generous. Wow.
Definitely.
That's sweet. Yeah. It feels short.
Yeah, very quick. Feels like it's been no time at all.
Yeah.
But then it's like you start thinking about it. It's like, oh no, it actually has been a long
It
time.
has been a long time. Like the fact that our son just turned 6 trips me
Yeah.
out. I'm like,
Yeah.
how are you 6?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he popped out right after we got married.
Yeah,
He ain't wasted no time making his appearance.
No time, okay?
But so anyway, it's been 7 years. We've been through a lot. We've experienced a lot. We've lived in 2 different countries,
Yes.
two states, and we feel like we've learned a good amount in 7 years. And so in this video, we're just gonna chop it up and share some of these lessons with y'all. I think these lessons apply to other folks who are married. It applies even if you're dating, if you're in a relationship. And something that I've learned is that the lessons that I'm learning in marriage make me a better human being, a better man across the board.
I agree.
Like they make me a better friend. They
Yeah.
make me a better business owner. They make me a better employee. They make me a better father.
Yeah.
You know, it's like these lessons aren't just applicable in my marriage. They're also applicable in every other area of life.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
So
I
don't
agree
turn
with
it
that.
off, even if you're not married.
Yeah, honestly.
All right, let's dive into it.
All right. So the first lesson that we're going to talk about is the lesson of over communication.
Okay.
Because you
That's where we're
always hear in relationships and all that stuff, whenever people are giving
Communication is
advice, they
important.
always say communication is key. But we believe over communication
Yeah.
is key. Like going the extra mile when it comes to communication in marriage is so important, because I really believe that when you don't fill in the gaps, the enemy will. Truly.
Say it again for the folks in the back.
When you do not fill in the gaps for your partner,
Yeah.
the enemy will. He will literally use any opportunity he can get to create space between the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever Elijah and I are so clear and there's a lot of clarity in our conversations, we're catching things before they can even become a thing, our marriage is so sweet.
Yeah.
And I feel like our marriage got sweeter when we started to over communicate.
Definitely. It works for the big things and the small things. So like, I even think like something as simple as just scheduling.
Yeah.
And like over communicating in your scheduling. Because I'm good for mentioning something one time
Bruh.
and then never mentioning it again. Like I'll tell that, yo, I got this event 2 weeks from now. Remember. And then we've had 1,000 other things, 1,000 conversations and other things have popped up. And then it'll be the day of the event or the day before. I'm like, babe, remember a couple weeks ago when I mentioned that?
And he knows he's doing me so dirty.
Remember a couple weeks ago when I did mention it now, but
no. And I be knowing when I know that you're doing me dirty in that moment. I just know because he'll be like, yeah, remember I mentioned it like that one time, like 3 million years ago. I'm like, bro, are you kidding me?
Hey.
Who's gonna remember that?
Importance of calendars also.
Yeah. So I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. So it's like, don't mention it just once. It's like, yo, start at the 2-3 week out mark and then mention it every few days. And like, it makes sure that there's no annoyances, that we don't even have like a small bickering thing going on, or there's no scheduling conflicts, things like that. And it works for something small and it works for something big when it comes to a heart issue. You know, it's like, oh, you did something that hurt my feelings or made me feel unconsidered. And it's like, hey, it may not be a one conversation thing that resolves this issue. We may need to talk about this for the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, a few times a week for a few hours, and that's okay. Like you said, I think when you over communicate something, it makes sure that there's no negative seeds left.
Right.
Like we're uprooting all those weeds, all the seeds that could grow into something bigger.
Okay, so what would be an example of over communication that you can think of in our marriage so that people have something more practical?
An example of over communication. If you're having a stressful week and you communicate, hey babe, there's a lot going on, maybe mentally. So like, I'm stressed out about something career related.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, on top of that, you have a heavy load with the kids that week. It's like, okay, let's not just have a conversation on a Monday, but it's like, maybe we talk about it on a Saturday. Monday comes, the week starts. Maybe there's nothing that we can necessarily do to take away the in-person physical responsibilities, but we over communicate throughout the week. So we talked about it Saturday the first time. Monday, we talk about it in the morning when we wake up. Monday at lunch or something. If I'm gone from the house, I call in, I check on you to see how you're doing, how you're feeling emotionally. We talk through it during the day. We get home in the evening. Maybe you debrief on how the day went. And we do that multiple times where it may feel like, man, this is a lot of conversation surrounding this one thing. And it's like, normally I might not even check in with you about this specific thing that much, but it's because like it's a pain point that you've expressed in this, week span or in this season. It's like, okay, we're going to spend more time intentionally talking about it. And I'm going to spend more time checking in with you about this specific thing so that, maybe stress doesn't build up, frustration doesn't build up on that specific subject.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
All right. So the second lesson that we learned in marriage, one of the big lessons that we've learned is that unity is one of the most important things in marriage. And I mean, it seems obvious when you say it. It's like, yeah, of course, you're getting married. Like that's the point of getting married, is to be unified. But something that we've realized is that it takes intentionality to be unified in every area.
That's so good.
Right? So I think when you're being married, yes, you're agreeing to unify and join your life together with someone, but that doesn't mean that you're just naturally going to be aligned in every single area of your life, right? So it's like, you get married, most people start blending their bank accounts and changing last names and moving in together.
Doing all the external stuff.
Right. There's external things that happen, but when it comes to your beliefs, when it comes to like the way you approach situations, I think a lot of that stuff, there has to be so much conversation, and it goes back to the communication piece. Like you really have to talk through every area, like every field in your mind, like needs to be explored with your partner to uncover, to like see where there is misalignment, to see where you can realign. Like, so for us, when we got married, we did all the external things, like you're saying, the bank accounts, the kids,
the name
changing, all of those things. But when it came to unity, I'll say specifically when it came to like career and purpose, we were far left, far right. And I mean, not that it was an issue. I don't think it was an issue or like there was anything wrong with it. And I think there's plenty of people who get married and may never do anything together when it comes to their career.
Right.
Right. But there is power and their strength in unity in those areas, meaning that even if you don't work together, it's like open the door and allow your partner into the things that you're doing and vice versa, so that they can give insight. It's like if you truly married someone who is you look at as an equal, someone who you look as they're not the same as you, they have different strengths, different weaknesses, but if they're complementary to you, then you want their opinion. You want their perspective, right? And I've learned that so much more in these last few years of marriage. It's like in everything that I do, when Ave comes into the conversation, when she comes into the brainstorming, when she comes into whatever it is that I'm doing, and we're able to partner together, just when there's a meeting of the minds, like there's so much more fruit that is produced from us working together, even if that means like she's not going to be involved in this specific project, or vice versa. Like she's doing something, she's creating content, she's doing a brand deal or something like that, and I'm not in it. It's like we can still come together and discuss, brainstorm, talk about it, strategize together, and then you implement or I implement. Yeah. But as long as there is a unity and it's at least like we know we're on the same page, we're on one accord, even if like we don't have to put in the energy, effort into that specific thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people end up coming into a marriage, they're coming with their own specific beliefs, the way that they were raised, maybe the way that they saw their parents do things. Yeah. And you don't even recognize that those beliefs are so ingrained in you until you get married and you realize like, oh wait, no, this is actually showing up in my marriage. And like Elijah mentioned, that's exactly how it showed up for us, was in the area of career. He does his thing, I do my thing, and that's it. And there was tension when we would talk about how we could support each other in those ways, you know? And I feel like when we first tried, it was difficult because...
we failed.
Yeah, we failed. It was really difficult because I think it was like I wanted to do it my way. You had a vision of how you wanted me to do it.
Came to career specifically, we were not unified. What we were both independently trying to hire the other person and in our respective careers, right, and boss the other person around.
Yeah.
So like
that's so good. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
I was trying to be unified with A. I was like, yo, I need help with my business. Come over here and do this, and the third. It wasn't like, what's your opinion and perspective on these things that are on the table? It's like, no, I need a person to do this thing.
Right.
And I think vice versa. It was like with content creation, there were sometimes where A was just like, hey, I just want you to show up and be in these videos and help me create this content. And we learned, it's like, all right, those things still need to be done, but it doesn't necessarily need to be your husband or your wife that does those things. And what we need to pay attention to more than getting this task done is, what does my partner love to do? Right. What are they good at doing? What are they great at doing? And how can we come together, and how can I use their strengths to build up what it is that I have going on in here, and vice versa?
Hey guys, we're taking a quick break from the podcast to tell you about the Social Archive. Are you looking for social media managers that can help you carve out your own space online and give your brand the visibility it deserves? Are you feeling burnt out trying to stay consistent, creative, and strategic while still running your business? Or are you frustrated that your followers aren't converting into paying clients? Let the Social Archive help. We specialize in social media management, taking the stress of social media off your plate so you can focus on what you do best. From growing your audience to creating content that turns followers into clients, we create tailored social media strategies that deliver real results. Your brand deserves to be seen. Visit socialarchivestudio.com to get started today. Now back to the show. Yeah, that's really good. Like a specific example is Elijah may not be in my short form content like on Instagram and TikTok all the time, but a lot of the times before I hit post, he is actually like the brain behind a lot of my content. Like I will sit down and be like, babe, what do you think about this caption? What do you think about this? Like, how do you think I should position this? And he helps me so much. He actually helped me recently with a post that's doing really well because I talked to you about it and I was just like asking him his thoughts and all that stuff. And he helped me. That's how he supported me. He actually was in that content as well. He actually ended up being in it, but it was in a way that you don't mind being in it, because it was something we were already doing.
It was very spur of the moment. And I think something that we've learned also is like, it happens every now and then, but for the most part, it's like, yo, please don't make me stand in front of this camera and act. Like this is not a movie. Yeah. We're not in Hollywood. Right. And I hate putting on for the camera.
He does.
So it's like, we've learned how to operate together. So Ave knows, hey, if she's trying to film some content with her husband, like there's special case scenarios.
Right.
But it's like, if she's trying to film content with me, it's like, just set the camera up and capture the moments.
Right, exactly. So that's a way that we've learned to be unified. Another way we learned to be unified is in our finances. Like, Elijah is very strong with money. I grew up where I didn't learn all of the financial keys and tools and all that stuff. Yep. So what ended up happening in our marriage was I was just like, okay, you do it. But then we got to a point.
We weren't unified.
Right. We weren't unified. Then we got to a point where Elijah was like, I want you to know what the heck is going on, you know? And I wanted to know what the heck was going on, because then I would start to feel like, I remember some of our specific conversations, I was like, I just feel like you're my dad. And you're like, well, I feel like you're acting like a kid, because why don't you know what's going on with our finances? It was some very interesting
conversations around finances.
Such interesting conversations.
And once again, I think that's also connected to communication, because for the first few years of our marriage, I literally just handled all of the bills, all the money. It was like, I'm making all the decisions, and like things were fine. Yeah. But when there was a lack, I think, of knowing what was going on, it's like sometimes if I'm like, we can't buy this right now, I would
get upset.
Yeah, and she would take it personally because she doesn't know what's going on necessarily financially. So it seemed like, oh, I'm just making a decision to not get the thing maybe that you want.
Yeah, like you're withholding.
Yeah. When that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah.
You know,
and that opportunity was really good for us because it forced us to actually come together in a new way in our finances. Yeah. And that has made things so much better because now we're actually one in that area. So those are like some practical examples for true unification, because honestly, when we first got married, I thought we were unified in our finances, because I was like, well, we have a joint account. Like, if I want to know where money's going, I could just look in there and all that. But we weren't truly unified because I actually didn't know what was happening, and we weren't having like financial meetings, doing the budget together. And there's just another level of unification that we needed in that.
Definitely. And that makes me think it's applicable to this podcast and the last episode that was released. I think a lot of things that we look at or that we'll talk about in this podcast and that I'm learning in life are not binary. So like a lot of people look at decisions as like zeros and ones, yes or no, right? Are we unified? Is it a yes or no answer? It's not that simple. I've learned over time. It's like you can be unified, but there's a scale of how unified you are.
Come on.
Right? So even with the finances, it's like, all right, on a scale of 0 to 100, we were sitting at like a 20 or something. And it's like now we're closer to a 75. And we will continue to move forward.
Well, okay, we're more than 75. Don't do us like that.
We got a long way to go.
We're pretty unified in our finances.
All right, yeah, that's objective. But there's a scale.
Wait, okay, no. Why are you saying that? Huh? I need to know.
What?
You can't just make that claim. Like,
we're 75 on the unity scale?
How much more unified can we be in finances?
I mean, I feel like just when it comes to like sitting down with our budget meetings and stuff, it's like,
we just need to be more consistent.
More consistent, yeah. It's like consistency things. It's like
I'm with you on that.
We do budgeting meetings, yeah. But it's like sometimes, some months, I'll just do the budget. I'll do the budget myself, and I'll be like, here, just look at it or something. Yeah. Or vice versa. A will be updating the budget, and I might not even look at it. I'm just like, okay, cool. I trust you.
Yeah, just because of the time.
Right.
Which speaks to our systems, but whatever.
But yeah, anyway, so there's a scale. When it comes to unity, there's a scale when it comes to communication on most of the things that we're talking about. And it's not about do you do it or do you not do it. Hopefully most of these things you are doing them or you're learning them. And over the time span of your marriage or your relationship, you get farther and farther along on the scale. Yeah,
that's really, really good. The next lesson that we've learned in our 7 years of marriage is proper conflict resolution. This is so important. And it was like a huge thing for us because if you don't have proper conflict resolution skills, a level 1 issue,
life is gonna be hell,
bruh. A level 1 issue will become a level 10 issue for no reason at all, just because you guys just don't know how to talk to each other. And a big thing that we've learned is timing is very important. Like a lot of times when you're upset, it's so easy to just go to the person at any point in the day and just be like, hey, I'm upset about this, and you should have did this, and this bothered, and like you're just word vomiting. But something that we've learned is, okay, I don't know what's going on with him right now in this moment. I don't know what type of day he had, let me actually go and ask him and prepare him for the conversation. When two people are going into a potential abrasive moment or a moment where there can be a lot of friction, prepared, that will change the whole game when it comes to conflict. So something that we'll do is we'll say, babe, I have something I want to share. I'm a little bothered right now about something. Can we talk about it today at some point? Let me know what time works for you. And that can prepare the other person to go into the situation knowing, okay, this might be a little bit of a hard conversation, but let me prepare my heart, let me prepare my mind so that I can be loving, so I could be present, so I can be intentional. And whenever we do that, our conversations are just so easy, you know, because both people were prepared.
Yeah, that's true.
I think timing is very important. And I'll also say just being slow to speak and really measuring your words is also very important. Because when you're frustrated and you're angry, it's very easy to say something the wrong way. It's also very easy to say something that you actually don't mean or to misspeak. And those moments can be very damaging because then it can make the other person feel like, dang, am I even safe to share how I feel with you the next time around?
Yeah.
And conflict is such a good opportunity for you guys to grow.
And to connect.
To connect. Every single time me and Elijah have had conflict, it's actually been an opportunity for us to become more united and more intimate with each other.
Understand each other more.
Understand each other more. And we've grown a lot because of our conflict. And just doing it well and making the other person feel safe is such a big deal and has made our marriage so sweet.
Definitely. And I feel like there's so many little small things, like small tweaks that you can make in communication and in conflict that make a big difference. So like something that we try to do pretty consistently now is in conflict, instead of hearing what the other person says and then immediately responding, like if the first thing that you do with your response is to communicate back what that person said, to make sure there's understanding first, it like helps them feel understood, right? It can also give an opportunity to clarify so that there isn't any miscommunication or there isn't any extra tension added because you feel like someone's taking shots and you just misunderstood.
Right.
You know, and then that also gives you time. If you're thinking about what they said and you're reiterating it back to them, then that gives you a second to process further maybe how you feel before you give a response, you know, a full response.
That's really good. And then another piece too is like, just don't be dismissive. Like, don't dismiss your partner and their feelings. A lot of times when you feel like someone is coming at you or saying something about you or your character or whatever it is, will become offensive. And I think the key there is to not then turn around and dismiss what your partner is saying so that you can feel better about the situation. I think being dismissive is really destructive because then it can make the other person feel like they're being gaslit or like what they're saying isn't valid or doesn't hold any value. And you just want to make sure that you're really weighing what they're saying. And no one's saying that you guys might all the way agree all the way, but I think just making the other person feel heard, feel seen, feel loved, and understanding how maybe whether it was intentional or not, like your actions could have triggered something in somebody.
Yeah, that's good. I'd say I think one of the big lessons, especially when it comes to conflict resolution, that our therapist talked about all the time was that the goal of conflict is not always resolution. And I think that was very interesting to me. It's something I need to hear because I feel like I'm such a task-oriented person. It's like, all right, if we're gonna have this conversation, there needs to be a resolution and we need to be able to open the conversation and close the conversation. And that's it. And like I've had to learn that instead of trying to resolve the conflict, let's just connect throughout the conflict. Like if the goal is just to understand and the goal is to connect and to make sure that we hear each other's hearts instead of just trying to finish the conversation or make sure that the issue is closed, when you try to connect through it, it's just a better process.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
And like, I know personally, like if we sit down and talk in the past, like if we sat down and we talked for an hour and a half about an issue and the problem still wasn't resolved, I was so irritated.
Yeah, he would get so irritated. Because what are we doing?
All this time and we haven't come to a conclusion. I'm like, what is this? And like, it just brought me peace knowing, hey, that wasn't the point.
Right.
Like, the point wasn't to start and finish. Like the point was, are we closer? Do I understand my wife more? Do I understand like the things that build her up more? Do I understand the things that annoy her more? Like all of those things. Yeah, understanding each other on a deeper level.
Yes. I love that so much. Another lesson that we've learned is not to judge your partner. I actually think that some of you, and this is something that I've done before in my marriage as well, is that sometimes as a woman, I think that we can deal with feeling like we're better than our partner, or we might hold contempt in some ways. I think that a lot of times what can happen is we have a running list or a laundry list of all the things that our partner has done in the past. And then we don't actually let it go. And what ends up happening is our partner can't actually measure up because they're fighting this whole list in your head that they don't even know that you haven't all the way let go of. And I think that's really important because scripture says love holds no record of wrongs. And
right.
It's so key for us to actually be able to let things go and really just trust and believe like, okay, you know what, we're moving forward past this. And I think that was something I did very early on in marriage. Like I struggled with that a lot. Like I would just have this running list against Elijah, and then it would come out in the way that I would talk sometimes. And it wasn't until one time he called me out on it, like, bro, you talk like you're better than me. And you didn't say it in those ways. I don't remember how you worded it, but you expressed that like, hey, it sounds like you're coming off a little judgy or judgmental. And that was really hard for me to hear, but I really needed to hear that because it made me realize that, oh wait, I actually do that. And I actually do believe that. I had to actually confront that. I was like,
that's why I'm smiling, because I was like, I'm pretty sure you responded because I think I am.
I literally had to actually
In the
confront that.
conversation,
I was like, wait, I actually do think that I'm better than you. And that was very early on in marriage. That is not the same at all now. Yeah. So I'd be thinking Elijah better than me. I'm joking.
It's not healthy either way.
It's not healthy either way. I'm totally joking. But I think that you guys can get to that point of, oh, wait, no, like we're equals, you know, we're both human. We both make mistakes. And you can actually just see that soberly when you're not holding a record of wrongs against your partner.
Yeah, definitely. That's really good. I think what I've seen is that if you do judge, also what can happen is there starts to be a lot of assigning.
Yeah.
And so it's like when you judge, then you hold on to these things, and it's now like, even if maybe that's not something that someone does consistently, like you've attached this label to them. And then so it's like when you attach a label to a person, every single little sign that you see that may not even be that thing, you can attribute it to that thing. And it's like now they're that type of person.
Yeah.
Or they're that type of person. And it's hard for someone to be seen in a positive light when you've assigned a negative label to them.
That's so good. Like you will start to look for ways to actually prove your belief about this person. And that's very dangerous. So when you have the heart of contempt against your partner or a heart of being judgmental against your partner, that's exactly how it'll play out.
Right.
And I think that when you actually start to believe the best about your partner, which is what you should be doing, you'll look for ways to support the belief of, oh, he's actually, like, even if he does make a mistake, oh, it wasn't intentional. Oh, he's not that kind of person. Right. It's because he had a hard day. And I think that's the posture we should have towards our partners.
And there's nuance to that, because sometimes you just got to call it out, hey, you're inconsiderate. That was inconsiderate, or you're selfish or whatever. Like there are certain times where you got to like label the thing.
Right. But the way that you would word it so that your partner could receive it would be, when you did that thing, it made me feel you know, so if the thing is like, say you have a partner who you feel is selfish, the right way to word that would be, hey, when you didn't take out the trash and I ended up having to do it again after saying it to you the 50th time, like that made me feel inconsiderate or made me feel like the things that I bring up to you aren't important. And I think that's the best way to word it, because then you're not putting something on that person, and you can create the space for them to explain, hey, this is actually why that happened. And you're not assigning something to them, and then they feel like they're already fighting a losing battle because you already done called them selfish before the argument even started. Like that's not productive.
Yeah, cool.
That's really good.
All right, so the next thing that we've learned in marriage is like learning how to navigate your partner's strengths and weaknesses, and just like their qualities in general. I think something that something that we've learned is that like a character trait can be a good and a bad thing at the same time, right?
That's
So
good.
I've heard the saying, too much of anything is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you're extreme in something, it can have negative effects, right? In our marriage, something that's kind of had like a polarity, it's had good and bad, has been my approach to work, right? My work ethic. I feel like my parents did a great job of just teaching me to have a very good work ethic, to get out there, get things done. Ain't nobody gonna give you anything. You got to go get it yourself, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's served us well because been successful in some of the things that we've attempted to do, we've tried to do, we've set out to do. And that's, reap benefits financially. But then also like it's been good on that end. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, I think when you have this crazy work ethic, a lot of times you get tunnel vision. I get tunnel vision, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm the type of person where it's like, if I'm working on a project, I'm working on something, like that's the only thing I see. I don't want to hear from anybody else. Like, don't distract me. Don't put anything else in front of me. It's like, I'm working on this one thing until I pass out. Dang near.
Truly until you passes out.
And so that was fine, like when I was single and when I didn't have kids and when I didn't have a wife. But after we got married and as we started having kids and we started building a family, I had to learn to balance my time more. And so in the past, if I would spend 12, 15 hours working on something, that was acceptable. But like when there's other responsibilities on your plate, that's not acceptable. And like there are other things that need to be prioritized at the same level or above this one thing, right?
Right.
And so like when I made the decision to get married, it's like, okay, that automatically becomes a higher priority than work and career, right? And so we've just been learning, and Ave has just been helping me navigate. We've been navigating together, like how do we keep your strengths in the strengths column and not let it fall into the weaknesses column?
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's something like we're doing with all of our character traits, and just like slowly kind of working through.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, just making sure everything has its place and everything is in divine order will help your marriage run so much smoother. Like you said about the work thing, it's like it needed to be in its rightful place. Like, yes, we want someone that works hard, but at the same time, you just want to make sure that's never trumping over your marriage. Our marriage is always going to be what's most important. So I love that you touched on that. Yeah. It's really good.
All right. So the next lesson that we've learned in marriage is just giving grace when your partner makes mistakes. I believe that we didn't need to make mistakes, or we should try to limit the mistakes that we make in marriage. And I was like, okay, well, if Ave just listens to me when it's an area where I feel like I know more and vice versa, it's like, we won't make mistakes, right? Like, we'll just cover each other in those areas. And I think I've learned that in some situations and with some people, I think we have to have the space to learn through experiences. It's like, learning from other people's experiences are probably better. But sometimes we do have to learn through our experiences, And so when that happens and when we go through experience that is, maybe not the best, it's like we were given grace. Like God literally sent his son down, right, to save us from our sins when we didn't deserve it. And we should show that same grace to our spouse whenever situations come up, right? It's like, we're all humans. Nobody's perfect. We're going to make mistakes. And so giving grace and like not holding on to, because I think we talked about judgment already. And I think grace goes right along with it. So it's like when a mistake is made, sure, not labeling people, but also like not holding on to the mistake that was made as well. And moving forward with the mindset of like just believing the best.
Yeah.
Because I think when situations come up and negative things happen, it's like, all right, do you start believing that it's always going to be a negative outcome in these areas,
Right. That's so good. Another lesson we learned is really recognizing that sacrifice is important. Like when two people are coming together, you have to be willing to maybe put down your plan and come together and create a plan that is for both of us. A we plan. Yeah, that's good. And I think for a lot of marriage, like we've both had to do that in different areas. So a big way that I had to do that was like with children. Like at first when I met Elijah, I said I didn't want any kids. I was like, I'm just happy being married. Okay. Like that's all I want. But then as we came together, I started to realize like I actually do want kids. And I was like, okay, well, how many do I want? And how much do I think I have capacity for? And we had to work through that together. And we obviously settled on 2, and we were very happy with our 2 children.
Yeah.
And that's something that Elijah also had to like come and meet with me in the middle on, because I feel like if it was up to Elijah, he'd probably have
at least one more, couple more.
A couple more. Yeah. I could see you.
I'd be open for discussion.
Yeah,
no, it'd be an open discussion thing.
Right. But he was able to come down and I was able to come up, and we met in the middle. Yeah. And I think it was a sacrifice on both of our parts, and just being willing to do that. And we've had to do that in so many different ways in our marriage. Mm-hmm. And marriage can't be sweet when one person isn't willing to sacrifice, or both people aren't willing to sacrifice and lay down what it is that they want for the goal of the group, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's really, really important. I know it's hard, but it's always worth it. I feel like in the areas where we've sacrificed, it's been worth it, and it's made our marriage so beautiful and sweet. And then you can create your life based off of that.
Yeah, definitely. There's something behind being able to put down your vision, or maybe not even putting down, but being able to combine your vision with someone else's vision. Yeah. And you have to sacrifice, you have to shed an idea that you had for yourself. But it's like, if you've made the decision to join your life with someone else, with your spouse's life, right? If y'all have decided to come together, then I don't know why we assume that all of our hopes, goals, and dreams that we had before would stay exactly the same.
Yeah.
Not saying that you have to drop all your hopes and dreams. I think you should definitely still pursue your dreams and your goals. But I do think some of them will change.
Yeah.
Like if you're deciding to get married and you're deciding to blend 2 lives together, you're not going to be able to keep every single thing that you thought you were going to do from your old life. There's something beautiful in being able to put aside your own desires or wants or whatever it is in lieu of a joint vision. Or sometimes just it's like, yo, my partner wants this. And maybe in this season, I can't have the thing that I'm looking for, and she has the thing that she's looking for at the exact same time. So it's like, I sacrifice what I want in this season for what she wants. And like in marriage, you should be able to find happiness in fulfilling your spouse's desires.
That's so good.
You know, I question whether you love the person if you can't find happiness in them being happy.
Ooh, that's so good and so convicting.
Yeah.
I love that you said that. Yeah, because I think that played out in our marriage in the way of feeling like when we first had our kids, like our son specifically, I felt like I had to lay down the things that I wanted to do so that I could be the primary caregiver and Elijah could go after gifted hands. And I'm grateful that I did it, but early on it was a struggle for me and a tension for me. And I think it's because I still had that individualistic mindset of, well, why does he just get to go and like do his thing, but I don't? And that was just a sacrifice that I made for the betterment of our family early on in marriage. And I'm grateful I did, because now the business is standing on its own 2 feet, and he doesn't have to work to the degree that he did when he first started the business. And if I didn't do that, then the business wouldn't be what it is. And that business has provided for our family.
Yeah. And opened up other doors.
And opened up other doors. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we're filming at the studio off of the business. It's my business.
Wait, maybe we shouldn't say that. Can you say that? Is that illegal? I mean, that's not legal.
Legal? What?
No, that's not legal. Yeah, it's a studio. Yeah. And that was just my personal story and journey with sacrifice. And it's played out so many different ways in our marriage. How about you, babe?
Well, I want to add something to what you were saying.
Yeah.
So like with the sacrifice, because you definitely made a huge sacrifice with being pregnant for 9 months twice, you know, having a C-section with our first child, like that whole, I feel like it was like a 3-6 month recovery process to really get like 100% healthy again. And huge sacrifice. So grateful for that. And I know in that moment, it felt like a life-changing sacrifice. And it was, but now there's so much joy that I know you find in having our son and having our daughter. Like, they're like, our 2 kids are just the best. They're beautiful. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like something that felt like a sacrifice 6 years ago feels like one of the biggest blessings in our lives now. You know, so it's like, even something for you who's watching, it's like, you don't know how God can change a sacrifice to make it feel like a blessing.
Yeah.
You know, and so like there's blessings behind it.
That's so good. That's so good. You saying that reminds me of the scripture where it calls husbands to sacrifice. Like it says, lay your lives down for your wives, just as Christ did for the church. And it makes me think about Jesus and his biggest sacrifice, which was his own life for us. But now we get to reap that reward of that sacrifice. You know, like we get to be adopted into the family of God because of that sacrifice. And I think that a lot of beautiful things and a lot of rewards come as a result of sacrifice. And when you're not willing to do that, then there's rewards and blessings you're actually missing out on.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm glad that you touched on that.
And we even mentioned it in the last podcast when we were talking about having a growth mindset, right? When having a growth mindset, you have to sacrifice things that maybe you want to do in the moment for something that you want in the future.
Yeah.
And so I think like even when you make a personal sacrifice, if it's like, I want a 6-pack, I'm going to choose to not eat ice cream and cake for 6 months or something. And I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week, even when I don't want to, because I want to feel healthier. I want to be able to walk up the steps and not be out of breath, whatever it is. It's like that's a sacrifice and things that you actually want up front. But in the long run, you get the thing that you really desire even more.
Right.
I think it's the same in relationships. It's like, all right, I'm sacrificing this thing maybe that I feel like I want right now, but in the long run, the sacrifice will pay off to something that's even greater.
Yeah. That's really good.
So the last lesson that we're going to share today is that we've learned that we have to understand and know each other's stress points, emotional needs, triggers, love languages, all of those things, right? Relationship grows in healthiness as we learn each other on a deeper level.
That's so good.
Right? Emotional needs change throughout marriage. Each season of life requires different things emotionally from each partner, right? And if you're not constantly communicating those things, if you're not constantly asking questions and keeping that top of mind, you might be holding on to something that your partner needed in a different season when that has changed, right? So like you're feeding a need that's not there.
That's so good.
Right? And then you're putting in energy to something that's not effective.
That's so good.
Right? And I think that can cause issues because then it's like, man, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing that. And you thinking, oh, they're not grateful. But it's like, no, it's like, actually, no, it's not that they're not grateful. It's like, you're actually not meeting the need. Like I think about like the nutritional value of foods and stuff. It's like, yo, your body needs iron and B12. And it's like, you're giving me vitamin C when I need iron.
Yeah.
It's like each season requires different nutritional needs. And so you got to make sure you're in tune with your partner to know those needs.
That's so good. Yeah, because one of the biggest lessons I've learned was I was doing all this stuff thinking that it was serving Elijah. And it wasn't until we had a conversation, he was like, I don't really feel served. And I'm like, excuse me, you don't feel served?
I clean the house. I mop, I do the dishes.
And he's like, I appreciate those things that you do, but I didn't ask for that. Like, what I actually want is this. And that was really helpful for me because, like you're saying, a lot of times we can show up in the ways we think that our partner receives our love, and they're not receiving it at all because they're like, I didn't ask for that. I didn't want that. And I think you really need to pay attention to just who they are in general. I think in connection to that, I love that we're even talking about this because paying attention to your partner's stressors is a really big thing as well. Like we have saved so many arguments because we recognize, okay, there's an external stressor that may have come up in the past that has affected you or me or whatever it is. And if we see that external stressor coming back up again, we'll have a conversation. We'll say, hey, babe, I recognize that this external stressor is coming up. I recognize in the past that it actually affected you negatively. Okay, can we just be mindful of that? And let's make sure that because of this external stressor, we're even slower to speak. Like we're measuring our words even more. And we're being kinder to each other. We're loving each other in a different way because we know and see that, hey, this thing has impacted us before And it's because I know him or he knows me, and we're able to actually combat something that could potentially be an issue. And then it doesn't become an issue because we're paying attention to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can be proactive. When you understand your partner, when you understand, like I said, their needs and their triggers, stress points, you can definitely be proactive. And I don't think there was any proactivity, if that's a thing, at the beginning of our marriage.
No, there wasn't.
Like, it was all reactivity.
Everything was reactive.
Everything was reactive. It was like, okay, this situation popped up. He's acting this way. She's acting this way. Now we just got to work through it. Versus now it's like, oh, okay, no. Even like before we experience things, like even knowing, okay, maybe in this season, you're going to take on these responsibilities. I'm going to take on this responsibilities, right? Or this is going to be the situation. And it's like, okay, we can plan out, because we know each other, we can plan out even what the emotional needs are going to be before they happen.
Yeah.
Which I think is beautiful. It's like, all right, if these 3 things are going on in life, if this, that, and the third is going on in life, my wife's emotional needs will probably be this. Like there will probably be a desire for more quality time, so we need to carve out, like if work responsibilities are going to pick up in this season, then we need to actually intentionally carve out more quality time, more date days, more date nights to counteract those things that are going on. Right.
That's so good.
And so I think, that's just a part of knowing each other. And that's a never ending process. That's not something where you're going to ever arrive, like I said, because it changes in every season. So we continue to ask deep questions. We continue to explore each other's minds, hearts, all those things, and figure out how we can continually serve each other.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, babe, honestly, I feel like we've learned so much in 7 years.
Definitely.
And I am just really excited to share these tips with you guys, because if we knew these things in the beginning, I don't know if things would have honestly been different, because we were just where we were when we first got married.
No, we might have. I mean, because I feel like if we had somebody that was walking with us through marriage, like it would have been different. But like we didn't, like we had people around us, like we had counselors and different things there, but we didn't have anybody who was also married to like walk with, to kind of look ahead and tell us, hey, here's things to expect.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Anyway, this is a really good episode. If you guys like this, please comment below. Let us know what your favorite tip was, what stuck out to you the most, what you feel like is going to help your marriage the most.
Yeah.
And we're really just thankful and grateful for all the support. Please, if you can, leave a rating and review on whatever podcast platform that you listen to. We'd really appreciate it, and it would help get our episodes out to more people. Subscribe, like, do all the things, and we really appreciate you guys. So thank you so much for watching.
We'll be back in year 14 with another marriage video.
Not 7 years. All right, bye guys.
Peace out.